Everybody has a story to tell, and there was a time when we would share those stories around the kitchen table, laughing, telling jokes, talking about the events of the day, heated debates, tragic loss, living life. The kitchen table is where we could share our lives. So come sit with me and my friends as conversation unfolds across the kitchen table. In this episode, I'd love to introduce you to my dear friend Mike. I have known Mike for almost 2 decades now, and we've been through many of life's ups and downs together. He has always been a sound voice of reason for me, a comforting ear, especially during the dark times, a good friend through and through. From fun ski trips to countless hours of playing board games, I can't imagine my life without him. He is strong, intelligent, and wise, and has always been there for me when I have needed him. Today we discuss all kinds of different topics, from anxiety to sports to the lessons learned through adversity. Come and get to know Mike better as we discuss all of these things across the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Fading in from the intro that I'll record later.
Okay. That's
based on how much I like you or don't like you.
That's okay. That's fine.
And I will tell you this, I think it's difficult. So, okay, are you still doing your podcast?
It's like we're like that band that only comes out like on full moons and like on eclipses and all that stuff.
Werewolf from London?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you are?
Oh man, I had a boss years ago. She told me that her husband was in like a death metal band. I was like really surprised. I was like, oh, I just honestly couldn't imagine you being with someone that was into death metal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I mean, whatever. To each their own. Who am I to judge?
Yeah.
But then she said, yeah, but they only do a show like once every 4 months. They do it like on the solstice and the equinoxes.
That tracks.
I was like, that's amazing.
That
and
tracks.
And there was like a Friday the 13th in October or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
They did like a special show because it was Friday the 13th. So
I wonder if you gain more traction to some extent. Because that's very niche.
Yeah, for sure.
One, because a lot of stuff can be so oversaturated.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So, and they had at least a kid at the time, if not 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it was just kind of funny. I was like, I actually really like that idea. I want to, because they lived out in the Denver area. So
yeah.
I was like, I want to go out and actually see one of these shows.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds awesome. So,
well, and your podcast is more politically oriented, right? What is the name of your podcast?
Oh,
I'll put a link in the show notes.
You don't have to.
No, for sure.
I've
enjoyed some of yours before.
Yeah, so I do a podcast called the Political Maverick Podcast. Usually come out of hiding whenever the election cycle picks up. So not really focusing on midterms or anything. The original idea was to talk about like social issues, like ongoing politics. But as I did it more, I really kind of realized that I'm more into the strategy of politics than I am like into the issues of politics. Like I love the
West Wing.
yeah, exactly, the West Wing, and I'm more into like let's figure out the polls. Are the polls up for this person? Are they down for this person? Are they what way they're going up or they're going down? That kind of thing. And
yeah,
that's much more my speed than
you're Josh Lyman.
Yeah, I very much am. Yep. So that's kind of, and I've always been like that. I've always more liked the strategy of things and the messaging, and I feel like I've gotten pretty good at before I even hear the pundits talk about maybe Kamala gave a speech or Trump gave a speech or whoever gave a speech, I could tell you pretty quickly if that was good for their base or if it was bad for their base or if it was good for the independents or bad for the independents. Like I feel like I have a pretty good handle on how all that works just based off my own interpretations of how I think the political world works.
Of the data.
So, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think before that it was really just really get into like the issues of everything. And to me, like, I just kind of I get burned out on it. I could only wear my heart on my sleeve so long before I just get tired. Yeah. But I don't get tired of like the analytics stuff. Like, numbers are always numbers. They don't,
They don't lie.
Yeah, exactly.
Numbers don't lie.
So.
Which is why you like sports too.
Which
is why you're probably still a Pirates fan, right? It's because numbers.
No, not a Pirates fan anymore.
Not anymore?
No.
They've see that because they finally killed your heart, your passion.
That is actually part of it.
Because now I'm all about statistics of it, the numbers of it.
Yeah. So that's actually funny because like I grew up a New York Mets fan forever, right? And then their owner, Jeff Wilpon, so it was him and his son, I think, like were the majority owners of the team. To someone who doesn't follow sports, there was me. So there was a player for the Pirates named Bobby Bonilla, and he had like a huge season.
I actually remember Bobby Bonilla.
Yes. He had like a really good year, and then he became a free agent, and the Mets signed him.
Yeah.
And they signed him to like a 3-year deal. And they, so he was terrible for them, though. He had like one good season, then it was just downhill from there.
Yeah.
Well, the Wilpons were investing with a guy who I'll mention in a few minutes. They decided, like, so we can either pay this guy like $5 million now, but keep in mind, this is like 1998, maybe?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So they can either pay $5 million now, which is a lot of money in 1998 dollars, or we can invest that money and try to make like a lot of money, and we'll give him like $1 million every year for like 30 years.
Okay.
Right? So they went to Bobby Bonilla and his agent and said, here's the deal. We want to buy out your contract so you leave the Mets, but we're not going to pay you all the amount up here. We're going to invest that money, and then we're going to pay you starting in 2005 or whatever it was, $1 million every year for, I think it's 25 or 30 years. Then you'll be free of our contract. And so in the meantime, they invested with this fairly well-known financier called Bernie Madoff. But you know where this story is going. So they invested all this money with him, and not just that money, not just the Bonilla money, but a whole bunch of money.
All
and
the money.
Almost all the money. And then they sold off. So they lost a bunch of money in that whole Ponzi scheme. And then they ended up having to like basically sell everyone on the team, trade off all the guys that were basically doing what the Pirates do. Anyone who was worth money, they traded off. And that's when I kind of lost interest in them. I was like, oh man, this ownership group stinks.
Yeah.
Like not only do I know they stink because they don't spend any money, but now they don't have any money to spend. So I said, and it's in writing, it's on my Facebook page somewhere, I'll have to find it, but I said I will no longer be a Mets fan until they sell the team, until the Wilpons sell the team.
Yeah.
And so I immediately just started rooting for the Pirates because obviously I live here in Pittsburgh. And then in 2019, there were rumblings the Mets were looking to sell, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And they sold to a guy named Steve Cohen. He's a hedge fund billionaire. He's the single wealthiest individual owner of any baseball team, maybe any sports team in general. But and he's just like pumped a whole bunch of cash in. And so as soon as he sold the team, as soon as he bought the team from the Wilpons, I was like, I'm back on the bandwagon, baby.
Back on the Mets bandwagon.
Yeah. And I held up my end of the bargain. I was true to my word. I said I will not root for the team. And then to not following them when they went to the World Series and lost.
Yeah.
And yeah, but now I'm all on the Mets wagon again. So, but yeah.
All because Bernie Madoff.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, sports ball.
I know.
You know me. I don't know much about sports ball.
That's okay. Yeah, it's only a part of what I do. So.
Yeah, but the statistics and the rules and all the stuff behind it. You know, do you think that was something that always got you interested in sports? And also, do you think that's, you know, as someone who's not like a huge sports fan and doesn't remember all the stats and things, do you think that's like a lot of people get into it and know all of those things because they like the stats, because they like it as more of a chess game than anything?
For me personally or other people?
People in general.
I think so. I think there's a whole cohort of like just numbers people. I mean, I follow way too many people on Blue Sky that are just like data nerds, like way more than I am. And sometimes I'm like, whoa, do we really need to be measuring this? But it's just people who are really big into numbers and percentages and trying to find the new way to evaluate players.
Isn't that why fantasy football leagues exist?
It's why D&D exists. I mean, honestly, I don't see it as any different. I was just about to say I'm as much into D&D, maybe not so much anymore. Like we haven't played in a long time. But it's the same thing. But
is it about the stats or is it about the game?
It's about the strategy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's about the like what can happen next. You know. Well, this guy, he has, 25 charisma. Can I try to fudge my way into
Can I manipulate the situation?
Yeah, exactly. It's as much as bases loaded, bottom of the ninth inning. This guy hits 285.
And can he pull it off?
And he hit a whole bunch of home runs, but can he get even a base hit to win the game?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So it's like, what can happen next? You know, what can I do with this? So.
Yeah. So it's funny because whenever I asked you about doing this, you've done your podcast. We've done all kinds of creative stuff in the past.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole concept of like, will people listen, or what are you doing with it, or how are you launching it? Where do you listen to your podcast? Are you
Apple Podcasts?
Okay. Did you see? I just got it on Apple Podcasts.
I did not.
So you have to subscribe it on there.
And you got a little plug here on this episode too. So
cool.
But yeah, and that's really the only place I put mine out anyways.
Do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
I do, actually.
What? Oh, okay. What all do you listen to?
Yeah, you name it. So.
I don't listen to podcasts.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Wow. For someone who's doing a podcast, but.
Well, I've told people this before. As a musician, I don't really listen to a lot of music. I know what I like, and I listen to it. It's not like I try to find new types of it. As a filmmaker, it's not like I watch a lot of movies. I mean, I do, but I know what I like.
Yeah.
Podcasts, books, it's all those sort of things. Like I need to be like turned on. Turn me on, baby. I need to be turned on to something. And it's like, some people will offer up, hey, you should listen to such and such, or you should read such and such. And after so many attempts of certain people giving me those sort of things, then I'm like, I'm not going to take your opinion on it.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are, I think of like directors. Not that I'm a huge movie buff by any means. In fact, I've almost seen 0 movies compared to other people, right?
Yeah.
Like every time I say, you ever seen this movie? No, I've never seen that. But okay. But like just, what I recall of listening to directors or actors, there are some that they say, I don't watch a single one of my movies. I don't really watch any other movies. I'm only focused on what I do as a job. So that I'm only influencing me, right?
Yeah.
There's that end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is that people are trying to emulate the best people. But then like tweak it enough that it becomes their own.
Yeah.
And that's like when I do my political podcast, I listen to one called actually the company closed up recently, but it's called 538 or was called 538. They're run by a guy named Nate Silver, who's a big data guy, a big stats. He's a statistician.
Yeah.
He's a really good poker player and stuff. But he basically started this website from absolutely nothing. He was reporting on 2 things, NBA basketball and politics, which is why you picked those 2, but okay.
Yeah.
And he turned it into the point where ABC actually bought his podcast and hosted it on their platform, and they would plug it. He'd be on ABC Politics all the time and stuff. But they did a podcast. He'd be on there maybe one time a month. It was a weekly thing. So I listened to that a lot, and I think that's where a lot of I would kind of look to them first and see, are my instincts right here? Just so like I'd have my preconceived notions as to where I think things were going for the election and whatnot, or this and that, and then I kind of like real quick peek and say like, okay, cool, we're on the same page, that kind of thing. Or if it was different, I would say, okay, but why did they say it's different? And then kind of explain, well, here's what I think, but here's what they think. So for me, I'm sort of on the end of like, I have no problem looking at my peers and saying, okay, we're almost all on the same track. That's fine. But there's other people, like you said, who are, no, I just want to be on my own. I want to be on the desert island. I don't care what anyone else is doing.
That's me, lone wolf.
Yeah, exactly.
Run out into a field.
Yeah.
We're going streaking in the quad.
Yeah, exactly. But you can still,
I think all creative people emulate something.
Yeah.
There's nothing new under the sun. I mean, if I've listened to a podcast before, it's been the Tim Ferriss podcast. And he's the one that wrote the 4-Hour Workweek.
Oh, right.
So really,
okay.
I got to the podcast because of having read the book. And the book came from a personal suggestion years ago. And then I, became a huge Tim Ferriss fan and got all of his other books and listened to some of the podcasts. I think sometimes for me, it's like, oh no, I lied. Uh-oh. I did listen to, because what I was thinking of is that I would only really listen to podcasts when I had that dedicated commute time. Because when I was driving for FedEx, like when I listen to a podcast, I get interested in the material, so I don't really want to like skip in and out of it a whole lot.
Okay, I get you.
And FedEx wise, I'd always be jumping in and out of the truck, and I didn't work with earbuds in because active job, I didn't want to lose them and stuff, so I would just play music in the truck the whole day. But that's what made me think of this is that when I started working out at the church, that I had that hour 15 commute or however long it was, I had plenty of time to listen to stuff. And I did listen to whenever they were doing the Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, and
right.
Felicia Day did a podcast. It was a limited release thing, but it was like behind the scenes sort of stuff based off of that show. So I did listen to that one, and I actually enjoyed that. But yeah, I suppose for the most part, like I know a lot of people love the true crime ones, and then there are some other ones that are kind of more story oriented.
Yeah.
I really, I suppose there isn't a whole lot that I know that's out there or that I haven't really dove into it because of that. Like, if it's a 45-minute episode and I have a 45-minute commute, that'd be great. But usually I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, because I listen to true crime, listen to sports podcasts. Human interest stories. There's actually a great one. It would be one if, you want to hone your craft. It's probably the best one out there. I think it's called This American Life. The host is Ira Glass, and he's got like a great voice. He's a great storyteller, but he also just like lets his guests just kind of like tell their story, and then he sort of narrates over it. So yeah, if that makes sense. So
I suppose in fairness, coming into starting this though, I did listen to some, and there was like those differing sort of formats, and I did hear some of those where it's like interview, and then he would splice. So maybe it was his.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of it
because I appreciated it. It's just not the flow of what I wanted with this. What I wanted with this was like almost as authentic as possible, as that we are currently sitting at my kitchen table.
Yeah, that's fair.
And eventually, as I get more guests that I don't personally know, I still want it to be this conversational sort of style.
That's fair.
And if there's long awkward pauses while we don't know what to talk about, then I can edit those out.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's have an awkward pause.
That's okay. I got my notes for your questions. Because I come prepared now.
Yeah, so those questions, you have them written out, and you have the answers to them and stuff. Wow, you came prepared.
This is what working in project management does to me.
Well, what were the questions again? Because honestly,
You're the host, man. You should know.
Yeah, I know, but I have written some more, and I've added some more. Did I send you the 3 list or the 5 list?
3.
Okay.
There was a defining moment of your life.
Yeah.
There was adversity.
Yeah.
And messages of hope.
Yeah, so the messages of hope I've definitely come back to, or I've tried to come back to with everybody. Because if there is some sort of bend to this at all, it is messages of hope.
Yeah.
A lot of these, I end up talking about mental health and wellness and all that kind of stuff, which we don't have to. Sometimes these can get pretty dark, so I don't want to do that.
We're going
today.
there.
You want to go there? But I think, I'm trying to think of some of the ones I added, because Brenda, I stayed a little more strict to the questions, or we did come back to the questions. Yeah. But other people's, it's been like, I ask one question and then they just go. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, if you want to go to the questions, what do you got?
Well, you got to ask me. You're the host, man.
I don't remember what the questions are. Let me look these up.
I don't remember the exact questions. That's why I'm saying. I just have like a shorthand title for them.
So I found the questions.
Okay.
What is one of the most defining moments in your life, and how has that shaped your journey? Whoa, that's a heavy one.
So this is one I really struggle with this question.
Why is that?
So I was talking to my wife, and from here on out, I would just refer to her as my wife. If that's okay.
That sounds fine.
You don't have to put all that in there, but
I'll refer to her as Bob.
Okay, there you go. But yeah, I was talking to my wife about this, and like I said, is defining like achievement, or is defining like, what does that mean? I said, I just don't feel like I have an achievement story to tell necessarily. Like, I've definitely done stuff that I'm excited about, or that like I did this, yay. But I said, I don't like, when I think about that, I don't think of anything that's like, whoo, like exciting. And she said, no, I think defining can be anything in your life that shaped you into the person you are now. And I said, well, okay. So I kind of thought about that for a little bit. And then I came back a little bit later and I was like, but the question I'm still stuck on is like, who am I? And no, seriously.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was just like, I don't think I really know who I am.
Do any of us?
And
that's the core question.
To her credit, and I just thought this was funny, but also kind of sad. She's like, I'm a mom of 2 very young kids. I don't even know who I am anymore. And I was like, I mean, that is true. I mean, as a parent, I feel the same way. Like, kids are great. I absolutely love my kids. But as any parent will tell you, it is very tough, and you kind of lose a little bit of yourself, especially in this like early age. Yeah. So I think we'll definitely find it again. But
I think you just unboxed Pandora there.
Yeah,
this is a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But yeah, so the more I thought about it, I was like, but the who I am really depends on who I'm around, and I don't mean it like I'm a chameleon by any means. I'm not like some malicious person. I think most people know me would say you're not a chameleon, but who I am is how you know me. Like, I have friends from work or friends from back home. Like, all we do is talk baseball and golf and football.
Yeah.
But my coworkers, I'm the goofy coworker who says stupid stuff to make everyone laugh. And with us, I'm like the malicious board game player who
Malicious.
Who is constantly trying to like backstab people to the point where now you guys just backstab me. And I'm just like, how do I get out of this rut? But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And to my parents, I'm, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but like, I'm a kind-hearted person who, I think my dad once said, like, Mike's a lot like Bart Simpson. He does the wrong thing, but in the end knows what the right thing to do is, something like that. And I was like, that's kind of a backhanded compliment, but also is kind of true. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of depends on who I'm around, and that's so. Once I think I figured out who I am, I'm comfortable with that. I'm just kind of a generalist. I'm into everything. Just even on the ride over here, I was listening to a band. They're an Australian psychedelic rock band that I recently found.
Okay.
The name is Pond.
Pond. P-O-N-D.
P-O-N-D.
Okay.
And there's another bigger band called Tame Impala. They're also like a psychedelic rock band, but they're actually pretty big. And
Are they Australian too?
They're also Australian.
Okay.
They're all from Perth. And this Tame Impala, it's really just one guy. I think his name's Kevin Parker.
Okay.
But when he tours, the guys in Pond at least used to be the backing band for him when he did concerts. And I think they've kind of split directions. They're both actually very popular in their own right now. Yeah, so I like really listen to them. Like, I am me, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not anyone I've never like chased fads. I've never been worried about like how cool I am. Maybe in high school I did, but since then I'm just kind of like, I don't care what you're into. I
like what I like.
Yeah, I like what I like, and I'm interested in what you're interested in. Like, give me a reason to like something, and I'll like it. I never liked whiskey ever. Okay, true story. Then a friend of mine got married in Louisville, Kentucky, and my wife and I went to a tour at the Evan Williams whiskey factory or whiskey tour, whatever it is. And I was like, oh man, I am not looking forward to like, sure, you want to do this?
I don't want to sip that rubbing alcohol.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. And they did a fantastic job. Like, if you ever go to Kentucky, I can't speak for the other ones, but the Evan Williams one.
Evan Williams specifically.
And it was like very history based.
Evan Williams, if you want to sponsor this podcast, I will gladly take a bottle of whiskey.
Absolutely. So, but we did this whole podcast, or not pod. We did this whole tour of the Evan Williams factory, and it was all about the history. Pittsburgh plays a major role in whiskey, and at least in the U.S. for sure. And then they talk about the ingredients and like why whiskey's like a special drink and all this stuff. And I was so sold on just the history and the background and like how much whiskey means to America.
Yeah.
That I was like, I like whiskey now. And I tried it a little bit, and I was like, this is maybe a little bit better.
I'm drinking history.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I got into it, and I like up until I stopped drinking for health reasons, I drank whiskey a lot because I really liked it, and it like just talking about like the barrel and the aging and all this stuff. Like, and so that's kind of my weird segue into like, if you give me a reason to like something, I will like it.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Penn State wrestling t-shirt, my in-laws. I in a million years never would have thought I was into wrestling ever, right? And so my in-laws, they have season tickets to the Penn State wrestling team. I didn't know this until I went to my first meet. But Penn State wrestling is the best wrestling collegiate program, at least in the country.
Oh, wow.
Right? They've won, I think, like 10 of the last 12 national championships.
Yeah.
And they have some of the best wrestlers, like, at least for the U.S., if not the world. I didn't know any of this. And so they take me to a match, and it's Penn State, Ohio State, which on any, it doesn't matter what sport it is, that's a big rivalry, right?
That's going to be a thing.
So we go, and I'm like, I've never been to a wrestling meet. I've never seen any. I don't understand the sport whatsoever. And by the time I left, I was like a diehard wrestling fan.
I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
I'm sweating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, again, if you give me a reason to root something, I will root for it.
Yeah.
And I've been to at least 2, if not 3, national championships. One was here in Pittsburgh. One was in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I maybe that was the only 2 I went to. But then we usually try to go to one in Penn State every one dual meet in Penn State every year. So, like, I'm a fan now. Like, I kind of casually follow it, but still, like, if I watch a match, I'll definitely...
Whiskey, wrestling.
Wrestling. What else is American?
And racing.
Oh, yeah, racing. Again, I never thought in a million years that I would have been into racing, but again, thanks to my in-laws.
Well, so what is the draw with the... Because you explained the whiskey thing. That like
Right.
the history and realizing like how important it is in America and stuff.
Yeah.
What happened with the racing thing? Why did you catch that bug?
Well, it's kind of what we started off in our intro was that I'm just kind of into stats, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
there's, each lap, there's a time, and you're trying to figure out, like, oh, they're faster this lap, they're slower this lap. How fast was their pit stop? How slow was their pit stop? Did they take tires? Did they not take tires? Did they take full fuel? Did they not take full fuel? Like, there's a lot of strategy that goes
Yeah.
on. Did they pit early? Did they pit late? That kind of stuff. And it's just that strategy of it, of like, that kind of gets me going. And then my brother-in-law and I, like, playfully, we always we tend to like opposite things. So I'm a Mets fan, he's a Braves fan. In racing, he's a Corvette fan, I'm a Porsche fan. And they're like huge rivals
Yeah.
in the sport. So it's sort of that. I also have that bit of like competition, like friendly competition, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
competition. So we drag each other, whenever his team wins or my team wins, that kind of stuff. But,
I feel like that's why you and I like anything at all. Is the competition.
yeah, absolutely.
Our
yeah.
common interests are only because of competition.
Yeah, exactly. So, but to get back to the question,
Yeah, the original question.
The original
about
question.
defining moments.
Defining moments. So yeah, I think once I had the idea of like who I am and that I can enjoy anything, I guess my story is not going to quite be as like uplifting as the part I just talked about. But thinking back on the defining moment doesn't have to be like a career achievement or like a life achievement or anything. I think sort of the fork in the road moment for me would be my roommate dying in college. So I went to Duquesne University, and you went there as well.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I would say I probably lived a pretty sheltered life up until that point. Went to Catholic school my whole life, including college, since Duquesne is Puritan or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I drank before I went to college. My parents were nice enough to, if we were in a party atmosphere or whatever, like they let me drink like under supervision, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But I never really like partied I think I went to a friend's house one time and we had like a party and played beer pong and stuff before high school, or before graduated high school, I should say.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really like who I was. I guess I was a little nervous about going and stuff, like the partying, getting in trouble, things like that. So went off to college, and I was still like a little leery about getting in trouble and stuff. And so still a bit of a goody two shoes and whatnot. Not that I have ever stopped being that, but but then I kind of learned throughout the year, at least the first half of the year, that my roommate, he was a little older. So I knew he was like 20 or 21 when we started, which I was only 18. So I was kind of like trying to figure out like, wait, what happened? Why is he 3 years older than me?
Yeah, that's kind of a weird matchup for roommates.
Exactly. And I remember the first day I got there, his parents were like really trying to make sure I was a good kid. They kind of asked some interesting questions like, oh, is he into partying? Is he into
They're
drinking?
vetting
Like,
you.
Yeah, they kind of were though. And so the kind of year went on, and he would be out late drinking, which I would try to be home by like midnight, 1 o'clock. We were, as someone put it to me, freshman year, you're probably going to be in your dorm room drinking by yourself or with your guy friends because all the girls are getting invited to the parties, and you're going to just be home because you don't get invited because you're a guy and you're a freshman, which was, to me, was actually pretty true.
Yeah.
So, we would stay up until like midnight, 1 o'clock, and then go to bed or whatever. And he would like roll in at 4 o'clock in the morning, just like drunk as a skunk. And then it kind of got a little bit worse. He came home one night, he was just acting super weird. He told me that he had done like LSD or acid or something like
Ooh,
that. And I
yeah.
was like, okay, that's weird. Like I didn't know what to do. So I just,
That's crossing another line.
yeah. And I left. It was like the middle of the day too. It was like 8 o'clock, and he was just being obnoxious. And I just left. I went to the library until they closed. And I came back and he wasn't there, and he wasn't there the rest of the night. So I was like, okay, fine. And then I came back another time, and he was snorting something off of his desk.
Wow.
And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And he was like, oh, don't worry, it's just a Percocet. And I was like, okay. Like, that's not great, but at least it's not cocaine, I guess. And I just, was another one of those moments I was just like, you got to get out, like, whatever. So it just kind of like, it was like a snowball was there. And at the time, like, I didn't know exactly what was going on. Now, if I had seen all that, I definitely, would have spoken up sooner. But eventually, like right before I left for Christmas, I told our RA, I was like, I'm thinking of moving. I can't really live with him anymore. Like, and I didn't really explain that he was doing drugs. I didn't want to get him in trouble or anything.
Yeah.
But I was just like, we're just not really gelling, and he's always out late, and like, I'm not that kind of person. So it actually ended up working out. There was like 3 or 4 other guys that didn't like the roommate, but liked someone else. So we all did like a shift one day. And so I wasn't his roommate anymore, which is great. And we actually got along better because we had classes together and stuff. So yeah, we switched rooms, going to classes, got along pretty well. And then, yeah, just one random Saturday, I think a bunch of my friends went to a ski trip out at Seven Springs or Hidden Valley. And I either couldn't afford to go or I couldn't go for some reason. I might have been working or something. So I stayed behind, and it was honestly just like me and him in the dorms. A lot of people had gone away. We actually got lunch together, which was had never happened. And like we said goodbye, and then maybe the morning or two later, I wake up. I'm like going down to the dining hall to grab breakfast, and one of his friends is outside, like our old room, and he goes, "Have you seen Andrew?" I guess I should back up a little bit. The night before, I was walking down the hall to like use the bathroom last time before I go to bed. And one of his friends was like, "Dude, Andrew and I got so messed up last night." And I was like, "Okay." And he like opened his door, and there Andrew was just laying on his bed. Mm-hmm. You know, there was this rule that like, unspoken rule, oh, if you have your shoes on, you can write on their face or whatever, right? So his shoes were on. I was like, "Oh, we should write on him." I was like, "Whatever, we'll just let him sleep." And got ready for bed, went back to my room, fell asleep, wake up the next morning, again, going to get breakfast, and one of his friends is standing outside of his room. He's like, "Have you seen Andrew yet?" I was like, "I saw him last night. He was asleep in his bed." He goes, "I just went to go check on him, and he's all blue." And I was like, "Oh shit." He's like, "I called 911. I don't know what to do." And it was like, it was like ER. You know, they just, within minutes, the paramedics were there. And they're in his room, and I can hear him doing chest compressions, and they're just like yelling stuff. And one of the paramedics comes out in the hall, and he says, "Does anyone know if he's done heroin?" And I was like, "There's no way that Andrew did heroin." And then the guy that I'd seen the night before said, "Yes. Like, yes, we did." And I was like, "Oh shit."
Wow.
And I think at some point he pulled me aside and he was like, he asked me like how Andrew was laying. I described like the position he was laying, and he was like, "That's the same position he was in when I saw him this morning." And that's always kind of haunted me, that had I gone up to him sooner, the whole, if I had written on his face or something, would I have found him sooner? Mm-hmm. And would I have been able to save his life? Mm-hmm. And that has torn me up forever, like to this day. So it's not as, I've kind of gotten over it a little bit. Like, it doesn't bother me as much, but like, obviously it still gets at me now. And it was one of those things, we go back to the defining moment question, and I might not have on some personal level gotten along with him, but he actually introduced me to a lot of the stuff that I love now, or that I enjoy now. Like, I remember going to college and I was big into the Beatles and the Who and like Led Zeppelin and classic rock and stuff. And he was the first person to introduce me to Simon and Garfunkel, which is odd, like that I had never really listened to them before.
Yeah.
And there's another band, Death Cab for Cutie. Mm-hmm. And he'd always talk about like Eastern religion and stuff, and Buddhism and maybe Hinduism and something else, just, and he was big into meditation too. He was kind of like, a modern hippie of sorts.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that kind of set me off on a journey. Again, I was a good Catholic boy, and I really just started like questioning stuff, because like everything I had been taught was, well, he did drugs, he partied, he did a lot of stuff he shouldn't have been doing in the eyes of the church. Mm-hmm. So he's a bad person. Yeah. But I was like, but the person I knew wasn't a bad person.
Yeah.
And it's one of those questions of like, wait, how can my beliefs match what I saw in person, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
And so I really went through this period where I really started to question my own like religious beliefs. And I started studying, really honestly started out as like Hinduism, but there's like a lot of gods, and I was like, there's way too much here. Like, I need something that's simpler.
Yeah.
And so then someone kind of gave me a hint of like Buddhism is very similar to Hinduism. So I was like, oh, okay. So I started studying that. And it was a lot about like mindfulness and whatnot. And then I was taking a philosophy course, and we were learning about, depends who you ask, but either Taoism or Taoism. There's actually a great book about it by none other than C.S. Lewis, the guy who wrote Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he was a philosopher first who wrote a kid's book. Maybe people think the opposite, that he wrote a kid's book and then wrote a philosophy book. But either way, I think it's just called The Way.
Yeah. And
it's just like a Western interpretation of Taoism, however you want to say it. And it's kind of like, at its core, that's honestly still what I truly believe as someone who you would consider religious. Mm-hmm. It's a lot about how life and the spirit is like a river, and you can sort of follow it as you please. You know, you can get on the river as long as you want, you can get off, that kind of thing. But the river is life. And it's not, you know, I think on it now, and it's not that different than Christianity is. It's just we don't, or I don't necessarily like praise Jesus or things like that. That's just not who I am. But we have a lot of things in common. You know, I listened to your episode with Don, and I was like, he's actually describing a lot of what I believe. But
Yeah.
the difference is that, like, you know, you guys are praising Jesus, whereas I just praise life and everything around me. Like, we are the way. We just kind of follow it.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird because, like, the way I describe it almost sounds like there's no destiny. There's no, but I do believe in that kind of stuff of, like, I do have my own personal destiny, but life takes me places, and it puts me in places that I need to be. It puts me in places that I shouldn't be, and helps me get out of it. And I just kind of navigate life and funny coincidences. Like I personally enjoy funny coincidences because it's like, well, you know, life has a funny way. Sometimes it's ironic, sometimes it's cruel, sometimes it's funny. But I always just take stock in, like, yep, whether or not I want to be, I am here.
Yeah.
And then I trust life, I trust myself, I trust the people around me to get me to where I need to be.
Yeah.
And it's not that different from what you and Don were talking about.
Yeah.
Of, like, but instead of saying life, you guys might say Jesus brought me here. Jesus did this. Jesus did that.
Yeah.
But we're not saying anything different. It's just I don't believe in, like, one higher supernatural power. I just believe in life and atoms and, like, science. It's sort of like, you know, science and life and religion just kind of meeting.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, I think at a younger age, I was angry at Christianity. I was angry at Catholicism. And I sort of really found myself being like, well, Jesus isn't real. God isn't real. Like, and really just trying to, I would have never called myself atheist. I would have called myself, like, agnostic. I was, like, hoping that Jesus wasn't real because that would somehow make what I believed right and someone else wrong. But now it's not that at all. It's you're right and I'm right. Like, we're both right. We just don't agree on the how. We agree on the what, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that, you know, tragic event kind of helped me shape my own religious beliefs, my own foundation, something I will give to my kids and stuff. That
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you believe. You know, people will say, well, you have to believe this, you have to believe that. But just believe something and just, you know, be able to, you don't have to be, what do you call it, like a zealot about it. It can be your own. Make it your own. Make your faith your own. You don't have to. And that's honestly, and I don't mean to pick on Catholics by any means. I know you and Don did that too a little bit, but and that's okay. I mean, there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of just, like, we say these creeds over and over again. And I was in it for 18 to 20 years growing up, and, like, I don't know what the hell they're saying.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just repetition. Some people I know, they have been able to kind of find a Christianity, Catholicism that means something to them. There's other people that use it as a way to just say, well, yeah, but I believe in a higher power. You know, I guess the best way I can explain it is, like, in the Jewish faith. There are, like, the Hasidic Jews, not the Hasidic Jews, the Hasidic Jews. But there's the more culturally Jewish, but still abide by, like, what's the big thing?
Torah.
Well, not so the Torah, but, like, the thing with meat, the kosher.
Oh, okay.
They still do, like, the kosher. They don't eat red meat. They don't eat seafood. They don't do all this stuff. But they're not out there, like...
Proselytizing.
yeah, that or even going to temple every week, or even, you know... I know people who are more, like, culturally Catholic. They go to church every week because that's what they do. That's what they've always done. But it's more of just, like, a check the box thing on Sundays versus a, like, I know other people that are Catholic that are, like, deeply religious and understand the books of the Bible. And just and again, this is my own personal opinion, but there are way more Catholics that are check the box on Sunday than, like, deeply religious. As a person I formerly worked with once said, like, I'm Catholic, I don't read the Bible, you know? And I was just like, you know what? Now that you say that, that is true.
That's a commentary all on its own.
I know, exactly. But that's, like, when they said that, I was like, oh my God, you are right. Like, because growing up, like, sure, we read the Gospels and stuff, but it wasn't, like, to me, it was a story. It wasn't like but we learned this from that. And I went to Catholic school, like I said, for 18 years. And to me, it was just another story. It was just another piece of history, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I never found, I found myself just being like a check the box Catholic.
There was no personal connection to you.
Exactly. Whereas I think like my personal faith now has a connection to me because I've made it that way. Because that's how I've perceived life. That's how I've done all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and without that kind of whatever you want to call it, like that, the way I've found my own quote unquote faith, I think has led me to where I am today. You know, I kind of had to go through those angry years and just, be like an angry person, that kind of stuff, to eventually become the accepting person that I am, that like, I don't judge other people because they believe this or that. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty defining moment.
Yeah.
And I think you found the basis of the of the question in defining that it's not about achievement as much as it is like what makes you you. You know, because your beliefs, your beliefs drive your actions, regardless.
Yeah.
Everybody's beliefs do. If you believe nothing, that drives your actions. If you believe strongly in the Bible, that drives your actions. If you go around believing that gravity's not real, that'll still drive your actions. I mean, it's not
exactly.
It doesn't mean you're going to start floating.
Yeah.
But even if you want to go back to like the Bernoulli principle and Da Vinci and the Wright brothers and all these different people that have added to us being able to actually fly, their belief was that it was possible. It was just a matter of finding the science to match it up or to somehow figure out how to make it be.
Yeah. One other thing I was going to mention, and I always struggle with, I've never verbalized this to anyone, which is probably the worst place to put it on a podcast. But, I've heard throughout my life people say, well, if you don't believe in God, then you're going to go to hell. Right?
Okay.
And I'm at this point, like if I had to put a label on what I am, I would say I'm an apatheist.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but that's true. I heard this phrase years ago, and I'm like, that is true. Like, whether or not there's a God does not matter to me. Like, I'm just apathetic about it. Like, if there is, great. If there isn't, that's fine too. Like, I'm not gonna, again, if you want to believe in God, go for it. If you don't, go for it.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
But then the other question comes up about, but what if God is real?
Yeah.
And you don't believe in him? And that's kind of where I think my own personal philosophy is. And I don't mean this to sound arrogant in any way. Hopefully it doesn't come off as this. But if there is a God, and I get to the pearly gates and it says, well, did you believe in me? My answer would be, I didn't need to believe in you to do the right thing. There are plenty of people who do believe in you that do terrible things. I didn't need you to be there for me. Like, I don't need you to be real for me to do the right thing. And that's just me personally. But some people absolutely do need that. They need the motivation to say, God is real. God will punish me for my sins, do this and that. And they need that in their lives to keep them on a straight and narrow path.
Yeah.
And I've taken all the lessons that I've learned throughout my life, and I agree with all of them. I don't know if I just believe that next level of it. So.
Yeah, it's funny you keep bringing up Don's podcast because
I really liked it. I'm not going to lie. So
he's a very deep thinker, and we've had a lot of deep thoughts because, I think belief goes beyond a lot of the stories. Belief goes beyond. I'm trying to think about all of this. So, for instance, you said you studied philosophy. Descartes was a Christian, and his whole thought experience was to find out what am I? What is essence?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Sitting in a dark room, for hours on end,
yeah,
trying to boil it down of what is the essence of this. And I think it can be really easy with all of the, cultural Catholics, cultural Jews, cultural Christians, cultural whomever who don't study it for themselves or don't own it for themselves.
Right.
I think that's where there's a lot of damage done. It perpetuates the, oh, well, the priest said this and I'll just believe it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And because, the more we learn as human beings and the more history that happens and all of these different things, there's just more and more enlightenment, but then in some ways we're the same as we've always been. And then you ask all of these different questions of who am I? We're not the first people to ask that, but there's also newer questions that are coming up. And life is so so interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many aspects to it. There's so I might have said this one in Dawn's podcast about I grew up liking Bill Nye. Did I say that in that one?
I don't recall
Okay.
hearing that.
Well, then I'll go ahead and say this a little bit.
Okay.
I grew up knowing Bill Nye the Science Guy,
Oh, for
right?
sure, yeah.
Love Bill Nye. I now am not a big fan of Bill Nye,
I'm not either, actually.
and it's several pronged on that one because one is I found out that he's not actually a scientist; he's
Right.
just a TV personality.
Yep.
Second is he is vehemenously anti-Christian. Like, he like searches out and like just like wants to make all of the beliefs into you're stupid for believing things. Whereas I really like Tyson,
Oh,
Neil deGrasse Tyson,
yeah.
because he is a true scientist, and as a true scientist, his mind is open to the fact that he
Right.
doesn't know it all.
Right.
We as a communal humankind don't know it all.
Yeah.
Every time we get over a hump of learning more, we find out we know even less. And I think that kind of humility in the vastness of this life,
Yeah.
I think that's the search for knowledge.
And I agree 100% with everything you just said. Is I don't pretend like I know the answers to anything. And this is one of, if we get to the messages of hope, I'm just going to say it now, is I'm just intellectually curious.
Yeah.
I just want to know. I'm open-minded,
Ted Lasso quote, which is actually I think an Oscar Wilde quote: "Be curious, not judgmental."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is such
Yeah.
a great scene. There were so many little quips in there that are great.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I agree with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, the atheist community could be right. The Christians could be right. The Hindus could be right. Anyone could be right. We don't know. So who am I to judge who's wrong?
Yeah.
Maybe we're all right in our own way. Maybe, and you brought this up with Don as well, is what if science is our religious, we're experiencing, how do I want to say this? What scientists are validating and what they're proving is religion, is what is our religious beliefs. And what religious people are validating in their beliefs is science.
Yeah.
And why does it have to be
Why do they have to fight each other?
exactly? That's how I feel.
Whenever the early peoples, and whether this is in the Bible or other early peoples, because all civilizations were figuring out their ass from a hole in the ground to begin with. They're like, oh, if I stick this in the you talk about history. I am so intrigued by how did something start? How did someone figure it out?
Yeah.
And it could be the simplest stuff like beer. Who let bread sit somewhere in soggy water and then they drank the water? Who was the one that said, hey, buddy, go drink that? And they're like, oh, it has this effect on me. Someone somewhere would have had to figure that one out.
It's funny you say that because it's not beer. I suppose that's what we're into, but mine is cheese. I'm like, wait, how long did you let that milk sit there?
And then who was the guinea pig?
Yeah, exactly.
Who forced somebody to say, hey,
Yeah.
you eat that. Let's see how that is.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 Caesar dollars, 3 Caesar gold coins if you go eat that moldy cheese over there. Or well, they didn't even know it was cheese. If you eat that moldy block that's been sitting in over there for a month now. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it stinks.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know any better. So.
But, so all civilizations have been going through, advances in things. So everybody back in the day would have said, oh, yeah, the God created the sun and created this section between night and day, and that we see the sun come up out of the ground because he made it come out of the ground with his hand, and it goes down on the other side, and he's putting it to sleep. And okay, that's poetic and all. But can that poetry still be there whenever we find out that the Earth actually rotates?
Right,
I mean, that doesn't. To me, that doesn't negate those other things.
No, absolutely, yeah.
But
yeah, no, I totally agree.
It's funny because you and I personally don't really do a lot of religious talk sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably because years ago we might have talked about some things, but. You keep bringing up the Dawn podcast, but I said in that too, I'm not here to force people with my views. I can tell you what I believe.
Right.
And I can tell you, we're talking about similarities. I think there are similarities. Obviously my faith, I believe there is an all, powerful being, but what that is, I have no clue. And I think, it is bigger than a lot of other smaller perceptions of, I was about to say a certain place. I don't necessarily want to throw the Westboro Baptists under the bus by saying their name, but
Yeah, no, that's okay. Just be prepared for picketers outside.
bashing
So.
Catholics and this and that and everything else. But at the end of it all, we all latch on to something. We
Yeah.
all latch on to a belief.
Right.
So anyhow, but back to your questions here. we can run through them a little bit if you want. I mean, I don't want it to be like real stoic that it's
it's
like,
up to
oh,
you.
here's a question. Well, so yeah, the two questions I added to it since I sent it to you was, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you? And then name 3 of your favorite topics of conversation, like what interests you most.
Oh boy.
But see, we've already gotten so much. Like it's like I think we have a lot of good stuff anyhow.
Yeah.
And you already answered those first 3, so I do want to hear your answers.
Oh, okay.
So let's go back to question 2. What is one of the biggest adversities in your life, and how have you overcome it, or are you still struggling with it? And so, are you still struggling with the question itself?
No, this one was actually a lot
This
easier.
one was a little bit easier.
Yeah, this one was easier.
Well, you listened to Trent's, right? And when he said about adversities, and then he's like, well, I hate to say it, but I've kind of lived a charmed life. Like I can't say that I have a lot of adversities.
Okay.
And again, like it's funny, we attach super meanings to words. We have connotations, whereas we don't look at the pure word, like the word consequences. Most people go, oh, that's negative. No, consequences is cause and effect. A consequence is what happens after an event. That's the cause and effect of it. But we think bad things. So when it comes to like this biggest adversities, people think, oh, well, I have both my legs. I didn't suffer from some sort of child, diphtheria or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that's an adversity.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that, I mean, being female in a misogynistic society, overcoming that can be viewed as an adversity. It's not that it's a limiter to you, and it's not that it's a negative thing, but whenever you live in a very patriarchal, male-dominated society, little sidebar that I'm going to go on here, is that I was watching this video with President Ford.
Oh, okay.
And there was a little girl that asked him a question in whatever conference thing they were doing. And this is funny how this kind of actually played out. Well, sort of, not to the extent that it could have. But the little girl said, what would have to happen for us to have a female president? Or what would someone have to do to become a female president someday?
Yeah.
And so he launched in this whole answer with it. And he said, really, I would love to see that happen. But the way that it's going to happen, and maybe because he's a strategist like you are, he saw into the future. He goes, what would have to happen is that a female would have to be a vice president to a male president, and they would have to win. And then that president would have to die, where then the female vice president would, by the Constitution, become president. And then that would actually open the door for that to be possible in future things.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we kind of saw that maybe possibly was going to play out in the past several years. And I think there's probably a lot of truth to what he says, just because we are still such a patriarchal, male-dominated society that we can't get over whatever hiccups we as Americans have to vote a female into the presidency.
Yeah.
Again, sorry, sidebar.
That's okay. Yeah, we could go down a whole
That's
road
because
with that.
because of the adversity. Because whatever the challenges are that are in your life, everybody, we all have our challenges.
Yeah.
And so that's part of. There's the defining moment. You said yours about how this has put you on your faith journey of owning your own faith, because what you had known is not what you're seeing. Truth is not aligning with belief.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's defining you from that point forward. That's moving you in a certain. And I feel like adversity is the same sort of thing, because whether it's that you grew up with no legs, or you grew up a black person in white society, or you grow up a white person in black society.
Right.
Something that is going to set you differently. Your path is going to be different because there's this challenge. So anyhow, that's my little diatribe on that one.
I'm going to read you my notes because actually it's pretty funny.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I said adversity is different for everyone. For some people, it's their family, race, sex, socioeconomic status. Period. For me, and then I went into my whole thing. But we were on the same page there that it was like Trent. I could say the same thing. Like, I grew up in a fairly well-off family. Like, we didn't struggle for money by any means, or food or whatever. We could go on a nice vacation once a year, sometimes twice a year, that kind of stuff. So like, unlike other families, we had something. But, adversity is different for everyone. Like you said, sometimes a disability of some kind. I think for me, it's really just been mental health in general, but specifically like anxiety. I've always been an anxious person since I was a little kid. I think long before I knew what a panic attack was, I've been having panic attacks since I've been like 8 years old. I didn't know what it was. I would just be like sitting there. I remember one time I was sitting with my grandparents in a restaurant, and I have no idea why. It just came out of nowhere, but I just got like really warm and I got like really sick to my stomach. And I went to the bathroom and I thought I was going to throw up. And my heart was racing, my fingers got tingly, and I just kind of like sat in the bathroom for a little bit. And then I came back to the table and my grandpa just like asked me a question. And I just started feeling better again. He like took my mind off of everything I was feeling. And that was like one of my earliest memories of having a panic attack. But again, I had no idea. I just assumed that like I was about to have a stomach bug or, just like, getting sick.
Yeah.
But that's been happening to me in like my whole life. And I had no idea what it was until actually around the same time that my roommate passed away. I like had terrible anxiety over it. My ex-girlfriend from college, I put her through a lot of shit, unfortunately, because of it. I would get like, we would go to parties or what, and it would just be with friends. It wasn't like these huge parties you see on movies, or it would just be with friends. You'd be
Just
there.
a little hangout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people know this about me. After that happened, and I didn't really understand it at first either, but like if she was drinking and I was drinking, I would get like really, really, I'd have like a really bad panic attack. And it wasn't until I started going to therapy that I really kind of put two and two together that I lost someone very suddenly in my life. And whether or not I recognized it, I didn't want to lose someone else that meant a lot to me. And so the fact that she was using or drinking alcohol, I subconsciously would like start having these freakouts of like, oh no, something bad's going to happen to her. And then I'm going to go through all of this all over again. But it took me forever to kind of figure that out. And unfortunately, it would be, again, the same scenario. I would just like get really hot and my stomach would kind of get upset and I'd have to go to the bathroom. Sometimes I'd throw up, sometimes I wouldn't. And that was just like a thing over and over and over again. And she was very nice about it, but at the same time, it was just like a strain because she's like, I don't understand what's going on. I was like, I don't either, And that's when she actually was the first person to say like, maybe you should go see a therapist for all this. And that's kind of when all I think kind of started coming together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a right away thing, but it took a few years for me to kind of get over that. But that was something that happened a lot.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I need to go somewhere. I'm going to be sick, but that sort of anxiety's always been with me though. And it's, there was years when I was depressed is probably the wrong word, but like I've talked about earlier, just like anger at where I was in my life, in a relationship, in my career, things like that I just wasn't happy. And I wouldn't say I was depressed, but again, I would say I was angry. And I think I would get this thought of like, oh, but what if I just moved somewhere else? Or what if I just took my own vacation? What if I just did this? But there'd always be that little bug in the back of my head. It would be like, but here's all the things that could go wrong. And I'd keep myself from doing things that I know I would have enjoyed when it's like, oh, but you'd be all by yourself. And what if? And I wouldn't do that thing.
Yeah.
And it's kept me from pursuing other jobs. It's kept me from a whole bunch of stuff. And I feel like, for the most part, my anxiety definitely is better than it has been. I think just with life experience, I think it's always been something that new situations always kind of like, I'm someone who needs to like experience it, the light version first to know that I like it.
Dip your foot in the pool and then dive in.
Exactly. Like, just make sure the waters are nice and warm first, whereas if it's something you're just to be like, okay, we're going skydiving. Like, no, we are not going skydiving. That's not happening. So, but again, it's kind of, I feel like I know that my anxiety has kept me from experiencing some things in life that I otherwise wouldn't have done, if that makes sense. So,
yeah.
But luckily I have a great partner, my wife, who has helped me a lot.
And is wiser than you.
And is definitely wiser than me and smarter than me. But we're a good combo like that.
Yeah.
Like, she has anxieties about some things that I don't and vice versa. So, she's helped me a lot. And, we probably don't say it often enough, but we are each other's rock for sure. Where she's feeling anxious, and I just like whip right into action and let me take charge. And
Yeah.
on the other end, the same thing happens,
Yeah.
especially when kids are sick. I'm the first person, like hypochondria fits right in line with anxiety.
That goes with yours.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my God, they have a fever. They must have dengue fever or malaria or, whatever horrible disease of the week.
And she brings the science in and is like, no, they don't have dengue fever because they weren't in Africa in the past 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. When was the last time you've been around someone who was bleeding from their eyes and all this stuff? They do not have Ebola, Mike. I can guarantee you. So, but again, that's kind of like the biggest adversity that I've had. Same thing with like, there's been times where I probably should have taken another job. I was just absolutely miserable in jobs in the past, and I'm just like, but am I qualified for this other job? A lot of the what they call it, imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Of just like, yeah, and that's been a big thing in my career too. Is just like, I know that I know how to do this stuff, but they're gonna find out pretty quickly that I don't know it as well as I should.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
see, I take my anxiety to the level of I don't want them finding out that I don't know it as well as I think I should.
Okay, yeah, but it's similar.
Because the thing is, I was just having a conversation with someone the other day. The whole point of becoming an adult is realizing that nobody else knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that is very
and we're
true.
all just faking it to make it. Because there are times where I hold myself back because I think I'm not qualified enough.
Yeah.
And then I start having those thoughts of like, oh, but what if I do even get into it?
Right.
And this whole time they're thinking I'm up here,
right,
and I'm not up where they thought I was, sort of thing. So it's not necessarily I'm not qualified for it, but I'm not going to be as good as I think that they think that I am.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I get you.
Yeah.
So, but this was years ago. I had to read a book on leadership as part of. I either was a supervisor or was becoming a supervisor. I don't remember the name of the book. I don't remember the name of the author. I think his last name was Maxwell, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe that was the first name. Probably not helpful to anyone.
Could be.
But
Isn't it John C. Maxwell?
John C. Maxwell. Yeah.
He writes a lot of good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of this about leadership and whatnot. So we read this one book, and it actually was very insightful. A good mentor, a good leader, a good boss should be someone that finds diamonds, right? And you think, oh, diamonds, yeah, absolutely. Like, you want to be sparkly, and you want to be shiny, and you want to be good at, impervious to heat and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But he said the thing is, though, that diamonds don't come out of the ground in the shape that they are in a ring. Diamonds take time, and they take manicuring, or whatever you want to say. They take finesse to get you in a position. And a good leader can find a diamond in the rough and get it to a place where it needs to be. And unfortunately, I've had few too many bosses that are like that. They've stumbled into where they are now. Thing I've heard in the past is people usually rise to the level of their own incompetency, which is true. People are very good at something, and then they get into a position where they can't ascend anymore.
They can't grow.
They haven't grown anymore. And I wouldn't say I'm in the position right now in my job, but definitely in the past I've had leaders that I'm just like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, but I've had great bosses that have done that, have shown me where I've gone wrong, and told me when I did great. And that makes sense. And like, so helping to refine me into a diamond, if that makes sense. Not that I would say I'm a diamond, but
no, you're a Sparkling Diamond.
Oh yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? Like, and it should be like that in every role. I guess I'm just talking to you as well as, hopefully you find someone
to shape me into a Sparkling Diamond, or I need to find my Sparkling Diamond.
No, I mean for someone to help you get there in whatever role you take on next, because not always going to be the same person.
I think I want to be Batman.
Okay, well,
I need a lot of money to be Batman, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's a superpower. So
that is his only superpower. He has a boatload of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so, but yeah, I would say that's my biggest adversity is just my own anxiety.
And that's a big one.
Yeah.
Oh, is it okay? Yeah. So this is coming back to the
messages of hope.
Message of hope. Yeah. I thought you kind of already said that.
Well, no, I got one. I don't have just one message of hope.
You're just such a hopeful guy.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was the one I already said? Oh, be intellectually curious.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is be intellectually curious and never stop being amazed at what you learn every day. In other words, don't be afraid to sound stupid. Not being afraid to ask a dumb question projects confidence by showing you aren't afraid to say you don't know something. And that's something I truly have. I think it's part of the reason why I've been supervisor. I've gotten to where I am is I don't care if I sound stupid. Like, I will 100% ask the question that no one else is willing to ask.
Yeah.
And people, they're just like, thank you for asking that question. Like,
Because I wanted to, but I was
wanted
too nervous.
to. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just, again, it kind of just protects confidence. But here's a few other ones, and I apologize if these are cheesy. But,
Are these all your quotes specifically?
I didn't go like to a quote book. This is me writing these in here, but I'm sure other people have said
Well,
them
then
as
I should put these in the show notes, and I will give you credit for every
Okay.
single one. It'll
That's-
be on the internet, so it's true.
Exactly. There you go. So, aim to find the right answer, not to prove that your answer is right.
Aim to find the right answer.
Yeah.
Not to prove that your answer is right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's a very Shakespearean. That's a very Sherlock Holmesian.
Yeah.
Find the facts or find the data to fit the facts.
Not the facts to find the data.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And that's another thing. Like,
I completely butchered that Holmes quote though.
that's okay. But yeah, it's another thing that I regardless of where I'm in my life, I'm never someone to say like I'm right. I know that I'm right, unless of course I know that I'm right. But a lot of times I'm like, okay, if you're saying it's something else, I believe you, right? I want to get the right answer.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about being right. I mean, that's a better way to say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all know people that are just like, but I'm right. And they just like argue and argue and
And you
argue.
just let them be right. Fine.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that it sort of goes along with it, but admit and apologize when you are wrong. Right? That's the big one too, is like, even if you've been found to be wrong despite the fact that you thought you were right, at least admit that you were wrong and then apologize. Right?
How different would our current society be if
I know.
if people were to live by that one?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, here's another one. Only you can define what success looks like for yourself.
That was very Army-esque of you.
Yeah.
Only
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Smokey the Bear, yeah.
So, or Edgar Snyder. But for people outside Pittsburgh, they won't get that.
No.
But yeah, only you can define what success looks like for yourself, and that's a hard one to learn because I think there's these archetypes of, well, to be a CEO you need to do these things, or to be a director you need to do these things. But what might be my success is not your success, because only you know when you feel successful.
Yeah.
And only I know when I feel successful. Like,
Well, it's interesting too. So I feel like there's two different ways of looking at that, because when you first read it, I was thinking of this like, yes, I am defining for myself what I think success is in life. But the way you kind of just related then made me think, but how you do it is can also be different.
Right.
Because you could have two people both being CEOs, so you could benchmark that and say, and both of them, success, what they wanted was to be a CEO.
yeah.
But how they did it and how they got there then can
Right.
also be different.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes the journey to the top, or wherever you want to be, to success is more rewarding than the success. Yeah. And I think that's something. There was one time I remember you were driving Lyft and you picked up someone, and you may not remember this story.
Yeah, go for it.
But you picked up someone and you were just chatting. You said, like, where do you work or whatever? Or maybe you picked them up from the building that I worked in. And you said about, like, oh, you know, my friend works there. And they said, oh, who's your friend? And they said, Mike Curtis. And you go, or you said Mike Curtis. And they go, wow, he's like a really big wig at work and all this stuff. And I was like, and then you told me that. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it's starting to ring a bell.
Okay. And you, like, maybe we saw each other a day or two later and you're like, wow, someone said you're like a big deal over at CBC.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm just a supervisor. But to this person, I was like the big shot, and
Yeah.
I wasn't at all.
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at is, to that person, I was successful because I was in that role.
Yeah.
But at that time, and even now, still, like, I haven't accomplished the life and career
big dreams.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, I'm not there yet. Someone might look at me and say, like, wow, he's successful, whatever. But I'm not sure that I feel that way. I'm not sure I agree with that quite yet. So.
I think you're successful.
Well, thank you. So.
I've known you long enough to make a judgment on that.
Well, that's fair.
I mean,
So,
you're not there yet, but
Yeah.
I also think you're successful.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can be both.
Yeah. And I'm going to completely do a 180 off of this.
Okay.
Ready? Be like Bob Ross and
Ah.
make happy mistakes.
Yeah.
There are a few mistakes that are made that cannot be corrected. Make the best out of a bad situation and work to make your life better through small incremental change. That's a good one. And then goes hand in hand, go easy on yourself. Have humility and don't take yourself too seriously. Life is too short to be miserable.
Yeah. That's a good one. Let's
So-
leave it with that one.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're going with the whole like leave it happy and read that last one again.
sure.
I have a goldfish memory.
That's okay. Go easy on yourself, have humility, and don't take yourself too seriously. Life is too short to be miserable.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
So we should end with a fart joke or something.
Well, no, and that's fair. And here's what I'll say is like, and we've talked about it a little bit here, and, you know, my roommate dying in college, I've had a few other tragic things happen in my life as well. And I've always just been a person that, you know, even in the moment it sucks, but I've never, or maybe a better way to say it is I've been through enough shit in my life to know that it sucks when life sucks. And I always make sure to, like, when I'm sad and unhappy, I hate to use the word depressed, I really take stock in sitting in my feelings for as long as I need to, but then picking up myself and saying, okay, but now I have to do the work. And I'll leave you on one anecdote here. It's April of 2020. The world is going to shit, 100%. And I get the call on a Friday morning that I've been laid off from the job I've been working at, on and off for about 10 years. And the world's falling apart. There's a disease that's killing thousands upon thousands of people. There are mass layoffs. No one can find any work. And I have a wife. We didn't know we were pregnant with our son quite yet. It was a scary time. Like, I didn't know if I'd ever find work. I didn't know if we would need to go on food stamps. I didn't know if we needed to do all this stuff, you know? And I gave myself, no joke, 2 hours. I called my boss, the one who had laid me off. It was like an off-the-record conversation. And we had a little chat. And then I called another person I considered a mentor at the time. I called them as well. And I immediately, within 2 hours, started applying for jobs. 2 hours was like the max I gave myself. I applied to like 150 jobs over the next 3 weeks. Eventually, I did find work. Didn't take that long. It was like a month and a half. But yeah, it was one of those, like, it was a bad situation, but I wasn't about it to like let it ruin everything. But anyways, that's all I have. Now you can make dick and fart jokes.
No, we can save those for. You want to come on here again?
Sure,
So
I got
more
more
to
life
share?
to talk about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I really appreciate all of the stuff you had to share, and yeah, if there's more, we can have a second one.
For
I'd
sure.
be cool with that.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I'm always I'm the chatty Kathy, so yeah. There's always something to talk about.
There's always something to talk about across
you
the
go.
kitchen table. You almost plugged my podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could have said yeah.
Oh,
across the
I
kitchen
should
table.
know that. I should have known that. There's always something to talk about. Across the kitchen table, brought to you by L'Oreal.
Evan Williams. Send me some whiskey.
Elvin Williams. Yes, exactly. Get some soap.
Thanks for stopping by today. There's always a seat at the kitchen table and another story to tell. If you have a story to tell, I'd love to hear from you. Please send me a message. And also subscribe to the channel to look for more episodes, anecdotes, and information. Talk to you next time and have a great day.